Well, fellas,
Blazers lose to the Nuggets 120 to 107, go 2-4 on the road trip, including dropping two to OKC. The Nuggets, boy, they were on fire in this one. Lots of deadly 2 foot shots right at the rim, 58% from the field, 47% from three. They pretty much completely dominated inside on the Blazers. Really, their superior size, I think, showed tonight. We looked like, especially when Nurkic fouled out, but even with Nurkic on the floor, they looked like a way bigger team, way more ability to get inside and finish. And what a shocker, Nurkic fouling out against Jokic. I've never seen that before.
in 21 minutes.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it with the size. The size is evident, and it goes back to the same thing we've been seeing. It's three guys under 6'5". None of them are like lockdown defenders, and the chief culprit is has been Simons. Uh, Tonight he was awful. 6 of 22, 1 of 10 from three. He had 3 assists and 1 rebound and 14 points, and he was a negative or a minus 11. And the thing with Simons that just is becoming evident, most of these games lately is if his shot's not on, he's not providing enough. He's a worse defender than Lillard has been by my eyes. And it's just games like this. This is like CJ 2.0 where he, takes 22 shots and has 14 points and what else is he bringing on this night, I know on those nights when he's on fire, it's awesome to watch, but if there's not defense being brought, something's got to give. And I personally would want Chauncey to even try to change the starting lineup. It won't happen because of egos and salary, but I just think that would be a lot better served coming off the bench and being that scorer because man, the defense when the offense isn't going, the defense has been awful. We've give up over 120 points I think in 4 out of the last 5 games. And the one game we didn't, our offense wasn't working and neither it's the Oklahoma City Thunder and we still lost. So, yeah, rough stuff.
It's a bummer when Damian comes out and Anthony. It just turns into the Anthony dribble show where the
Yep.
movement just completely dies off. He takes about 25 hard dribbles and takes a tough pull up.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
what I'm seeing for the first time in, since last year really is that we're just getting back to that pattern where Damian Lillard has incredible games. Like, I mean, he was on fire tonight. He almost had a triple double, 34 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. That's a great game for a point guard, and it was wasted. And wasting more of Damian Lillard's best games, it just breaks my heart.
Yep.
And Jeremy Grant had an okay game. He did some things well. And Nurkic, he had his struggles like he always does, but he had a couple of good moments. And we just don't have enough firepower or enough size to compete with teams like the Denver Nuggets. And it's been that same story for a decade now. And yeah, I'm not the blow it up guy. I'm usually the, keep them and develop them guy. But it just doesn't seem to be happening with this team. And it's sad to see. But yeah, it's probably time to look at what's out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's plenty of options. I mean, you don't have to go all in yet, but where you don't want to be in the NBA is 500 and the 8th seed. And if the season
17 and
ended today,
16 right now.
and if the season ended today, the Blazers would are about 500 and they're the 8th seed. And so that either means that they're going to lose their pick by becoming the 8th seed and it would go to Chicago, or we miss the playoffs and have the lowest chance to get a good player. So that's not where you want to be, and something's got to give one way or the other. We got to either make a move to improve or make a move to slide, which I know nobody really wants that, but We
Yeah,
got to
I think
not sit at the 8th seed.
I agree with you. I think we're kind of beyond the point of trying to slide. I mean, unless we want to give up on Dame, which I don't think anyone in Portland, very few people in Portland want to give up on Dame. I mean, he's the best superstar we've ever had, and yeah, I want to see us try with him. Yeah, I don't want to give up that loyalty and that drive that he has and the culture that he's built. And so yeah, that means going all in on Dame, and that's probably where we are right now because yeah, that it's not working with the team we have. And
It's starting to
I'm
go
sure
ahead.
some of you, I'm sure you probably saw that someone made a list of like the teams that it's probably time for them to blow it up, and Portland made the list, like the top 6 teams in the NBA who are kind of sitting in that middle ground and probably should blow it up.
Yeah, it's just starting to look like for the first time this season, kind of what we're used to, where it's just very middling team. Even offensively tonight, we look like we were struggling at times. You mentioned how Dame, 34 points, 8 assists, 7 rebounds. He didn't really look that comfortable for most of the night, to be honest with you. He was taking tough shots. He was kind of forced to dribble a lot too. The ball movement really wasn't there too much. It didn't seem like they were really. It was Denver's defense. They played a good game, honestly, on both sides of the ball that really, you know, limited what the Blazers could do. But it just didn't feel like a good flow to either side of the ball for the Blazers tonight. And yeah, it kind of just feels like it's felt for the last few years. We're getting into that point where it's like we can get on good little runs where we'll win a few games and look pretty good when the offense is playing well, but we just don't really have the defense to be able to sustain it. And then when the offense starts to flutter out, it looks really ugly sometimes.
Again, I mean, I said the 8th seed. We're actually currently in the 9th slot. I know that doesn't matter, but
Playing banner
I
2023.
mean,
Here we come.
so here's the thing, right? Everybody talks about, we always play a lot of close games. Can you guys guess what our net rating is?
I'm gonna look it up so I
Without
don't have to guess.
looking, can you guess?
Why don't you
What
tell
is
us,
it?
Colton?
It's 0. It's perfectly 0. So 500 ball perfectly. I mean, and that explains the both sides of the coin. The offense will stall, and then the defense isn't there. Sometimes we play a little bit of both, but lately it's been a lot of neither. And again, I really think a backup or at least another playmaker is necessary. That would help with a lot of the ball stagnation. I'm gonna keep saying it. Simons is not a lead guard. I'm sorry. He's just
It would
not.
just take some of the pressure off of both Lillard and Simons, I feel like, to
Yes.
make every single play. Because right now, if
Yes.
it's not one of those two guys, we have no playmakers. One guy that's starting to come around a little bit, coming off injury, I like the way he's looked, Keon Johnson. I think
Yes.
that he's had a good road trip, actually, amongst the kind of a terrible one for the team, but he's looked pretty good. If he can continue to come around, maybe he'll just be, at the very least, trade bait, where we can include him and maybe another player for a good, more kind of reliable veteran backup point guard.
He's been playing awesome defense, and I think it's come as no small surprise that lately Chauncey's been playing Keon down the stretch. Actually, he's been in there with Dame. In the Thunder game, he was hitting big shots, threes.
Yeah.
If he can hit those threes, I mean, that's a good player to have. And in the past, he was kind of shoehorned into that point guard spot as well. That wasn't working. And now that he's kind of off ball and doing that, he's looking good. And so I think it's just evident, definitely evident that we need another ball handler, another wing, because Josh Hart, and we got Nasir Little who's been hurt.
We
And
just
then
need more size too, whether that be a big wing,
6'8".
that, or maybe another kind of power forward type of player. But tonight it was really obvious, like Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. looked so much bigger than anybody the Blazers had to play against them. Even Jeremy Grant, I mean, he was getting bullied against some of those guys. And obviously Jokic just completely dominated. And Denver might be kind of a specific special team in that regard. They're big and they have, a 7'1" two-time MVP on their team. So when you play them, you kind of look small. But I mean, though, we're gonna have to go through them at some point. Probably they're a conference rival. We've met them in the playoffs before a couple times. It kind of seems like the West could go through them. I mean, if they stay healthy, they're going to be a force. I think Jamal Murray looked awesome tonight. He was that third quarter was completely spearheaded by him. He was dominant. And Michael Porter, obviously the back has been a major concern for him for most of his career. But if he stays healthy too, he's a knockdown shooter at his height. He's almost, Jeremy Grant level kind of 3-point size combination.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned being bigger because if you look at the top three seeds in the East and the West, Boston, big because they have Tatum, Jaylen Brown on the wings, like they're huge.
Yep.
Milwaukee, they're big. Cleveland, big. Then you go to the other side, Denver, big. Memphis, you got Jaren Jackson, Steven Adams, they're big. And New Orleans, they got Zion, Ingram, and Jonas. That's three guys that are all huge. So the big teams are playing well. So
a good team that the Blazers could sort of model is like Cleveland, because they do have two smaller guards on their team. Both of those guys are not big at all, but the size that they have around them, freaking Mobley, that dude is massive with a huge wingspan. And Allen, obviously, a lob threat, a big dude inside. It just feels like Nurkic has never been enough size for the Blazers. He's very kind of a specialized sort of a big man, not very athletic. And when he's not working, it's like, I like Eubanks. It's like we have more size than we've had in the past. It's having Grant and Eubanks is better than having Carmelo Anthony as our second option as a big man, but it still doesn't feel like enough size. And you can really see it in games like this where Lillard and Simons are just forced to do everything, and they're getting their shots blocked. They're like getting bumped out of the lane. They're not even able to. And then on the other side of the ball, they're like targeting Simons every play, and they're just getting layup after layup. At one point, I was like, geez, when's the last time we got a stop? I can't even remember the last time. It was like not that, because the Blazers were scoring. It wasn't that big of a disparity. It was like a 10-point game, but it felt like we had no chance because we just couldn't, I couldn't remember the last time that we didn't give them a wide open or, somewhat weakly contested layup at the rim.
That's kind of what this whole trip has felt like, honestly, is that the games feel like we have no chance, even though it's a 6-point game with 9 minutes left, or it's coming down to a last second shot. It just doesn't feel like the Blazers are really in the game because the other team can score at will. And when the other team can score at will, it kind of doesn't matter whether Damian Lillard can make the most amazing shot you've ever seen, because we're not going to score every play. And if they are, game over.
Yep. And it's been like that in the past. Stotts, right? That was the Stotts offense. I mean, if you go through and look at our last couple of games, I mean, you give up 130 to Dallas, and then you beat a bad Rockets team, but then 123, 101. I mean, then you lost that game, but then 120 again. I mean, the wins that we had before that, a couple against Minnesota and San Antonio, Minnesota scored 118, and then they scored 112. San Antonio scored 112, and we lost to Denver 120. So really, if you go back and look at our last, 10 games, we've only held a couple teams under 112 I know scoring is up in the NBA, but that's not sustainable. You can't win when you're just every game giving up at least 110 plus every time.
The defense started better this season. We obviously saw glimpses where it looked pretty good, but I do wonder how much that has to do with teams kind of figuring out the system a little bit. Maybe not the system so much as just the complement of players that we have, figuring out in the game plan to
target the Simons.
Yeah, target Simon. Whoever's on Simons, come set a screen for our playmaker and let them go to work.
Yep.
Because yeah, he does seem like that's kind of the game plan for a lot of teams is like just get him involved and good things will happen for them.
You know, I will say this. There's pieces still on the roster that you can use and you can try to get a better fitting roster. Cronin has come out and said this wasn't the end roster.
Yeah,
The roster needed more moves. What kind of moves are they? We'll see. We'll see what he does. It's not all hope is lost. I feel like
nah,
in the past we've had a lot less trade pieces to work with, and I feel like this year there's potential for like a season shifting move. So I'm not going to give hope, but it's a far cry from where how we felt at the beginning of the season right now.
yeah. I think it's important to remember though that coming into the season, expectations weren't that high for the Blazers, and it was just that amazing start that kind of raised expectations a little bit. So it's not like it's as dire as it sounds like we're making it somewhat because it has been a pretty good season for the Blazers so far. Still, even being middle of the road, it's like not where you want to be necessarily, but it hasn't been the worst start for a team that's basically a lot of new pieces, a lot of players who had never played together.
A lot of
So
injuries.
yeah, a lot of Lillard missing extended time. Obviously, Gary Payton having not played. But yeah, it does feel like there needs to be a move, whether it be trading Simons for another starter kind of level trade, or whether it be getting a backup point guard, maybe getting a little bit more size on the roster somewhere. One of those things seem like it's probably the route that the Blazers are going to have to take if they're not going to want to be that 500 play-in banner team this year.
We were basically 2 shots away from winning both of the OKC games, and the conversation would be different, if we were 4-2 instead of 2-4.
That's
Yeah,
true.
the conversation's always different after a win, a loss.
Yeah. And I mean, it doesn't really change the fact that it's the same team. I mean, even if we'd won both of those games, I think we would have had a lot of the same concerns. But it just does go to show. We made a video about this, the life of a sports fan, ups and downs. And it could have gone the other way. Both of those games came down to one shot, essentially. And obviously late game management matters, and we lost the games for a reason. The other team finished the game better, but there's some luck involved too, and those games could have gone either way. Now, I don't love the idea that we're like 50-50 with the OKC Thunder. We should have been
Why?
up,
Yeah.
17, not 1, and hoping to be able to inbound the ball. But
like Colton mentioned,
nonetheless,
we got a 0 plus minus rating so it's like those kind of early season buzzer beaters that were going our way. It feels like they're coming back the other way, and we're losing some of those now. The Murray game winner a few weeks ago, the
Yep.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander game winner a few nights ago. It's
Yep.
like when you're playing those close games every night, you're bound to have them come back on you. You can't win all the buzzer beaters.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to our post game reaction. We'll see you for the next one. Sorry to Mike Barrett. We ran out of time tonight. We'll have him on in the next show. See you guys later.
Bye.